One of the reasons we really enjoy working with you is we like to talk about the concept of making people human. I know that you and your life like to give back. I remember a project that you had with your daughter. Maybe every year you're collecting cans, some huge amount, but could you speak a little bit about giving back?
Yeah, thanks for acknowledging that, Joey. I have always felt the need to be grateful, but also to demonstrate what I'm saying. I'd rather walk the talk. And so in everything I do, I believe that I'm walking the talk when I'm engaging with folks. And so you mentioned this project, it's called the One Can a Week program. And my daughter and I had done it. She's now in college, so we don't have the same ability to do it. But when she was 6, I saw an article about an individual in Tucson, Arizona, who started this program. He called it One Can a Week, and he asked his neighbors to leave a can of food on their front steps. I reached out to some of my neighbors. I said, listen, I'm thinking of doing this. Would you consider leaving a can of food? And they said, sure. And so I said to my daughter, hey, we're just sitting around watching cartoons or something. You want to walk with me around the neighborhood? A little 6-year-old, you want to walk with me around the neighborhood? I think that some people left us some cans of food and we'll see what we'll see. It was just like a 1 day thing. My daughter, to her credit, was so adorable. We went outside and we went to several homes and there were cans. And it was super exciting to her. And it was very exciting to me. I said, you know what? Why don't you write down, take an inventory of what we're doing? So she'd practice. She'd be like soup and vegetables and green beans and whatever. I loved it. And so every week I said, oh, Hannah and I were there today. I'd love for you to, well, let's continue it. And the neighbors, it turns out, liked doing it because they felt like this is such an easy way for us to be
Yeah.
charitable. And you do all the hard work. You come and pick it up. And we happen to live in a neighborhood where it's hilly and was good exercise. And not that either of us needed it, but it was good exercise. We continued to do that for 10 or 11 or 12 years. Eventually, we would deliver it to a food bank here or a church there, somewhere local. But then at some point, I wanted to take my daughter to an actual shelter where there was a food pantry so that she could be in that environment just to see it. Also, it was a nice drive, and we would drive to a neighborhood that wasn't as great. And we would then carry the cans. We'd always count them. There was a lot of that
Yeah.
education that I didn't intend, but like this sort of odd level of education. And so we'd count cans and we try to beat our number from last time. I actually miss it a lot. At some point, we just started driving and she had to have games and it would be harder. She was a great basketball player in high school and they'd have a basketball event. She'd ask all the kids to bring a can of food and then we would put that into our collection and then bring it. Or neighbors starting to hear about it and they'd host things and they'd say, oh, can we drop off 4 or 5 crates of food? And I'd be like, great, we'll bring it. We went to a preschool once and they had collected all the food and all these cans of food. And my daughter was, I don't know what she was at the time, 8 or 9. And she's sitting in front of her preschool class telling them about this can collection. So it was wonderful, but it's philosophically, it's very consistent with my perspective on chipping away. We have this saying in my house, hashtag chipping away. I'm a big fan of James Clear and Atomic Habits, and he talks about this principle of 1% better, which is a very accessible concept. The one can a week is just like that. It's just a single can of food is not really a big deal. But a single can of food times 52 weeks a year, times, let's say, 10 homes, times 10 years, and all of a sudden, it's a massive amount of food. And also
Right.
gave my daughter an understanding of food insecurity. Even now that she's in college, she's written several essays about food insecurity. She's done more research on it. And I just feel like things like that are important. And we do that a lot with other charitable giving. We'll automate it so that every month
Yeah.
it'll be automated. And I went somewhere once to a board meeting for one of these charities. I happened to be in the city and they introduced me to the board and someone said, this is Ari Kaplan. He and his wife have actually made a monthly donation every month for the last 19 years or something. And the whole board was like, stood up, started clapping. It was $1 million. It was just that it was so consistent
Sure.
that over 15 years, if you do that with your career, if you do that with your relationships, there's no way that it doesn't have an impact. And frankly, often it's just positive. It's just like
Right.
you've paid into the well of
Right.
credibility. And I think that's a big part of that.
That's fantastic. All right. Thank you for sharing.